Mic check 127. Have I done that even properly? Hold on, family. I was trying to post something. Can I? I've probably done it already, and it's. Let's check this. See. Yep, it's not. Is it done? Is it done? Ah, yeah, whatever. All right, cool. What does that have to do? Tell a friend we're live. Go on, go on. I dare you. Anyway, let's switch to the show. Where are we? Oh, so much videos. It's just which one to pick? I'll pick this one first. There we go. Welcome everyone to the Black Batman broadcast. I'm your host, Rap Raven. If you're listening live, welcome. Good night. If you're listening in the future time, hi, I'm from the past. And today we are on our 100th and ninth show. So 109 times you've tried to help black people. That's right. It's good stuff. That's right. So let's see if we can go through our format like we normally do. So remember, if you're new to us today, these are free quotes that will help you tremendously. If you don't believe me, try it yourself when you're debating, talking, and trying to help black people. These are the free lines. Now, when it comes to working as a collective with only black people on matters that benefit black issues, black progression, and black ownership, black people are collectively inadequate. That's right. We struggle. We're underdeveloped in this area. You can just skip all the other stuff and say black people are collectively inadequate, just to get the ball rolling, just so we can start a little conversation to actually then conclude by let's do something about it. Next one is individually, you might find a non-black person who shows some kind of camaraderie towards black people. However, collectively, black people have no friends. Today we shall be unpacking this because obviously every week we have these free quotes, and these free quotes seem to be connected to every single topic every week without delay. Here. And last but by no means least, probably the most important thing of all time, the high anxiety line here that causes many black people to tremble in their shoes, and that is constructive black man with constructive black woman makes a constructive black family. That's right. That's right. Fantastic, that quote there. We're gonna see how the information connects to that today. Let's move on. So we're gonna give out the link. We're a public show, as if we invite the public to show themselves. Something's wrong with my machine. It seems to be tracking. Oh, there's no. There we go. But yeah. When we also invite brothers and sisters to the forum, but we say please practice the 4D values, and that's discipline, dedication, dignity, and discernment. Please do that. And let's not use any derogative language. Just try to use descriptive language if you possibly can, because that makes it easier to help black people. You see, when you're not cursing at each other. I know it's hard, especially when you're trying to actually, as you'll find when you try to go out and help black people, the concept of helping black people causes a high anxiety, and there's like a back of the mind programming that many will try to sabotage it. They won't know why, but we unpack that in the show. Anyway, so what is Black Bearman? Black Bearman is black people helping black people on black issues for Bearman. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But it's not. Or is it? Cool. So that means Black Bearman is a lifestyle. So I myself and many of the regulars on the show, we practice a lifestyle known as Black Bearman. And to our opinion, humble opinion, if more people practice Black Bearman, black people will be in a better place. Oh yeah, that's right. So we're going to show some videos, and by the Section 107 of the Copyright Act, we don't own any of them, but we're just using it as a case study because that's what we do. So please don't feel offended if you see a video here. If you're a black owner and you're doing constructive work, we'll try to promote you best we can. If we fail to do that, make sure you check us up and go, you've shown my video, promote me more. And as long as you're constructive, we'll have to say yes. We're compelled and bind by that kind of law there. Now, also, we've got our Instagram page that I miserably promote unsuccessfully well. I need to take more time to do it, but I've got some other projects on at the moment. But please, if you want to be a nice people to black people, promote the Black Bear broadcast. We're going to use it to promote the show and other constructive ideas that we want to go on the interweb and all that good stuff. Put the link there. So follow it and be a friend of the Instagram page. Now, I'm going to say this wrong. Every week we focus on a queen. Not necessarily a queen, could be any kind of queen, a black queen, of course, throughout Africa, Caribbean, and diaspora. And we just like to start on the positive vibe of, constructive black women or women who had an impact in some kind of community. And we're going to, this week is part 8. And I'm going to say this wrong. It's Sarraounia. I'll pronounce it wrong because I just have. But we've got a better person who's going to give more information on the video. And also, we're going to, how regularly do non-black people talk negatively about black people? I think a lot of black people are confused about this concept of how, by not understanding the second quote that collectively black people have no friends. A lot of black people are shocked that they find that non-black people might talk negatively about them, and we unpack that. But there's some political stuff going on in America at the moment where two, I think they are identified as Latino. Let's say Latino, Latinx, and this kind of stuff. And I think they found a recording of them mistreating black people, and I think they actually are responsible for many black people. So obviously, black people are shocked that you're doing this. Not a shock that the Black Band broadcast were well aware of this kind of behavior, but we shall unpack it because it's important. So let's start the show. Where is the video? Okay, let's start with the beautiful Queen stuff. All right, good stuff.
Ruler over
up
next. So we just covered Cleopatra, which most of y'all probably already knew. But now we're gonna still stay.
Pick up this, brother. When I find this page up,
within the motherland, the continent of Africa, but we're shifting over to West Africa now, and we're gonna tell you a story about strategy, black girl magic, and the Black Panther. If you're wondering how this is all gonna come together, it's gonna come together in the story of Queen Warrior Sarraounia Mangou. Let's get on.
I think I pronounced that right. Sarraounia Mangou.
If you know son, black kings, tell me what you know son, for this hack match.
So in the late 1800s or 19th century, Queen Sarraounia Mangou was ruler over the Anza people, which is a subgroup of the Hausa people within the Niger Republic. So think Western Africa, think area of Nigeria, Ghana, and even a little bit north of there is kind of the general region of where Queen Sarraounia Mangou was ruler. According to legend, Queen Sarraounia was born with yellow eyes like the Black Panther. So the Black Panther became the symbol of the Anza people. She inherited the throne after her father's death when she was only 20 years old and fought many.
So for those who don't know, we're joining, we're Queen Focus Part 8, and it's I'm saying it wrong, Sarraounia, but shame on me. So have a listen. Black Girl Magic.
Battles and wars against local tribes and local empires in order to keep the Anza people safe. Now the legend of Sarraounia is really solidified and confirmed, and her story is told over and over in the Battle of Lugu. And this was against French invaders or colonizers who were coming into Western Africa, trying to unify their kind of bits and pieces of colonies throughout Africa. They wanted to bridge it and create one large colony. And Queen Sarraounia and the Anza warriors were not having it. So for 3 months, the French were in their territory, and for
Sarraounia. Let's see if you can pronounce that at home. Sarraounia.
3 months during the nighttime, Queen Sarraounia and her warriors would come in.
Here it is again, Queen Sarraounia. Oh, I probably said it a bit wrong there.
Raid the village, attack, and during the day they would disappear and fall into the impenetrable bush. And they did this night after night, week after week for 3 months. And as the rumors started to spread of the sorcerer powers and the black girl magic that Queen Sarraounia had, the French soldiers, right, and the Africans who were forced to be French soldiers started to get a little bit more worried and a little bit more scared of the sorceress Sarraounia. And after 3 months, what they did was, one, they attacked their own captains. The French soldiers were like, no one told us that we were getting into this. No one told us about this magic. So they attacked their own captains, and then they left Africa.
Black queens, holla if you know some. Black kings, tell me what you.
This page called Black Studies. What's that? I can't see that. The thing's over it. I can't see it on my screen. I think it says snacks. I think.
No son, for this hack match.
I got one lesson and then an interesting thought from Queen Sarraounia's legend and her story. Number one is, how can you use your natural resources and the things that you're just native to and to your advantage, right? So Queen Cleopatra, we talked about using people's perception to your advantage, but here with Queen Sarraounia, it's how can you use the earth and resources and your own knowledge of your local community to your advantage. The interesting thing that I find is Sarraounia was known as the Black Panther. She was the ruler, and the Black Panther became the symbol of the people. Her army also disappeared into an impenetrable bush when they wanted to. This seems very familiar, right? And this is a 100-year, 200-year long legend. How much of this inspired the story of Black Panther created by Disney or created by the Marvel universe?
Who knows? Well done. Excellent, my brother. Thanks for that. We'll see if we'll promote your page soon. Now we're going to move on. Funny enough, they actually, if you didn't know, in the 80s, they actually made a film of Queen Sarraounia. There you go. And I mean, it's funny because there's no talk in the thing. It's just essentially because the trailer opens with a European man screaming. So let's just watch maybe 4 seconds of that. I think it's a 2-minute trailer. If you guys who hoover your house and make tea without watching the screen, all you're going to hear is European screaming and maybe some African drums, which is, I guess that's very peaceful stuff. So let's have a listen. Rewind!
Vivi France, vivi France. Les beaux pays de France, les beaux pays de France. Nous comptons beaucoup.
Trailer from the film from 1980s, 1983 or 4, can't remember. Maybe it was earlier. Every time I try to say it fast. Sarraounia. That's the queen we're dealing with there. Fantastic, super megally good. Fantastic. So this is part 8 of the Queen focus. So we have asked people at home if you have a particular African queen, or Caribbean queen, American queen, black queen that you want us to cover. Let us know. This week we covered the Hausa queen, Sarraounia, and they made a film of her. We just showed it. I think she was based maybe around about Niger, where Niger is. Don't hear much about Niger, to be honest. It's kind of in the center of Africa, roughly, near Nigeria, near the Niger River, I assume. We cover more. What do we know about Niger? They speak French, and Babunda is one of the languages, and obviously Hausa and stuff. Hausa is the highest population ethnic group. There's 53% of Hausa people. Hausa is actually quite a very well-spoken language in Africa. I think might be out of all the traditional African languages, I think it might be like 4th. I actually think more people speak Hausa than Yoruba. Could be wrong. If there's any Yoruba people in the group, they'll probably correct me there. But I think it actually might be more people speak Hausa. Could be wrong. Hausa actually is they define it as an Afro Asiatic language, I believe. I could be right. Yeah, I think it's an Afro. Yes, Afro Asiatic language. While Yoruba and Igbo is Congo. Is it Chadic? Not Chadic. It's Congo. Let me say the things wrong. It's did I say? All right. Let me be right for once. Let me be right. No, I can't. I think it's Congoid or something. This is stuff that I learned years ago and I should remember offhand, but I'm slow today, and people message me now. Interesting stuff there. We're just unpacking. I'm back in. Give me 14 seconds, family. Yeah, Niger Congo. That's what it's called. Did I call it Congo Niger? It's Niger Congo language. We might unpack languages one day because there's actually quite in Somalia, the country, and Nigeria, and where else? I read it somewhere, but there's actually a lot of new written languages that was formed. Not like within 100 years. Obviously, I think the oldest African, well, no, if you count, obviously like Kush and Egypt, it goes back thousands of years. But I think the oldest languages you'll find like the Ge'ez script in Ethiopia, that kind of stuff. Like when it comes to written language, but there's actually some modern ones that we should try to unpack. I wrote these down, but I know it's definitely Nigeria, maybe Cameroon. There was one, I could be wrong, and obviously Somalia. But anyway, I'm just waffling and all that good stuff. Let's now get to stuff that's of a concern. So that was all good stuff we've done there. Learn about fantastic, beautiful African queens, as we do to raise the Black people's spirit because we need it. But now we're going to go to a bit more concerning topics. Bam, back to it. So what's more concerning? So unfortunately, we're going to find out the question: how regularly do non-Black people talk negatively about Black people? Who knows? Every second, once a week, once a minute, when Black people are viewed, who knows? So we're gonna segue into a news report, which I've blackified to so CNN doesn't get upset. Let's see if we can find it. I think it's this one. Let's have a sneak peek. Bon appetit. Now, also, what I'm gonna do. Let me not forget because I don't forget. Where are you? There you. Nope. There you are. I'm gonna copy and paste, not be a sloppy waste, and put that in its proper place. Okay, where is it? And I've lost everything. All right. Fantastic. So now if you look, I've put the links. If you wish to join in and comment on certain things, feel free. It is a public show. This show is for Black people to come in and express themselves and be constructive. So you're always welcome, as long as you practice 4D values and you have some kind of wantonness to help Black people to a good extent. Now let's play this. Let's go.
Right, back now on the politics lead, the president of the Los Angeles City Council has resigned that position, the presidency. Following the release of a secretly recorded conversation during which she used a vile racist slur.
Really? Racism being practiced behind Black people's back. Never would have guessed.
To refer to the child of a fellow council member.
Oh dear.
This happened in a conversation about redistricting in the possible.
Also, we're going to ask other questions as well, because I think I was noticing that whenever, obviously, they tell the news, there's certain segues they won't go down, but in the Black Bourbon broadcast, we definitely go down segment because, as we know, racism is multifaceted and it's different layers, and sometimes they want to focus on their perception of the primary racist, but there's also small branches that we can unpack to be intelligent. Let's go.
Possible impact on communities of color. CNN's Nick Watt reports on the growing fallout from these remarks as calls intensify for her to step down from the council.
Step down. Oh dear.
Mike Bonin is an LA City Council member and father to a young Black son.
Let's just break that down. So basically, there's a LA council member who's friends or associates with the people who are being questioned, who are being challenged about racism, and he's of a European descent, a white individual. And as you know, in America and across the world generally, a lot of European men and women are adopting African American Black children. And so that's still the context. They've blurred out the kid's face because I guess he's a kid, but they've left the European man's face intact, so you can see him if you're watching. So basically, he's adopted a African American child, and I suspect he won't raise him with Black Bourbon principles, but who knows? You never know. Let's have a sneak peek.
Last year, they went to an MLK Day parade. City Council President Nuri Martinez had some issues.
So, they're actually an MLK parade, which I believe is Martin Luther King parade. So this is a Black. So I guess that's a good thing. He's bringing his adopted son to see Martin Luther King. As you know, when you look at historical figures, at the same time you have Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Now we respect both brothers there because they both died trying to help Black people. What you tend to find from non-Black people is they'll always have more affiliation with Martin Luther King than Malcolm X, because Malcolm X was more about, I guess, independence and fixing things for herself, while Martin Luther King was more about integrating and sharing and this kind of stuff. And there was an interesting quote that he said, I feel I've integrated my people into a burning building, but they don't really show that. I guess I think maybe in hindsight you realize that maybe Malcolm X might have had more of an idea. But either way, both brothers are fantastic. and we respect them here.
It's a black and brown on.
So this is the recording now of the Nura Martinez, I believe her name, and they're going to see her practicing racism.
This float, and then there's this white guy with this little black kid who's misbehaved. The kid is bouncing off the effing walls on the float, practically tipping it over. There's nothing you can do to control him.
This is the context. Basically, the European man who's adopted the African American child at this Martin Luther King parade. I think the kid might have been excited by the parade and was jumping up, and I guess maybe he saw constructive things and it filled his spirit. Who knows? And obviously, she wasn't best pleased with this, and she's now telling her Latino friends and Latinx. Don't know the collective nouns, so non-black people who are of Spanish heritage or something. And she's telling her displeasement with the movements of the child.
Translation: little monkey.
As she talks in her language whenever she, in Spanish, I'd say, and she referred to him as a little monkey. Very racist term usually when it applies to black people. Maybe she calls all children little monkeys. Maybe. Then again, maybe not.
Kid, which I was like, this kid needs a beat down. Like, let me take him around the corner and then I'll bring him back.
So what she said there was the kid, because of him being excited by Martin Luther King and jumping around, what she would want to do is take him around the corner, attack him a few times, and then bring him back. And this way he would probably jump around less.
Tweeted that Martinez attacked our son with horrific racist slurs and talked about her desire to physically harm him. It's vile, abhorrent, and utterly disgraceful. There were protests at her house. Today she resigned as council president. She issued this apology. In a moment of intense frustration and anger, I let the situation get the best of me, and I hold myself accountable for these comments. For that, I am sorry. Recorded nearly a year ago, the audio was posted anonymously on Reddit first.
So that's another thing that they do in politics. They will get videos and images and quotations of you many years in the past, and years, weeks, months, whatever. And they hold on to it. And whenever you're voting, they'll push it forward. They'll do this for black people as well, but whatever. That's why I would say there's a quote that's very important, and this is when it comes to name calling, this kind of stuff. I would say definitely do not name call non-black people or anyone, to be honest, but let's just focus on non-black people now. One, because it's not nice, and two, because it can be used to undermine black progress, you see. And this is the psychological challenge I give all black people. Not that I'm ever really around black people who ever say anything disparaging or negative towards any non-black person. However, we still have to look at what the anti-black racists are doing and learn from their mistake and say that even though this is natural to us, let's just really make it as a statement that we're not going to use derogative terms to describe non-black people because one, it's not nice, and two, it can be used to undermine black progress. That's right.
Reported by the Los Angeles Times. Those present were, reports the paper, all Democrats, all Hispanic. Among them, Labor leader Ron Herrera.
So here's another one who was caught up in that, Ron Herrera.
He's tweeted, there is no justification and no excuse for the vile remarks made in that room, period. And I didn't step up to stop them. He did not. And when Martinez described Bonan's son as an accessory, according to the paper, he joined in.
So, and you realize that what he wrote there, he didn't really highlight that he actually was part of the onslaught. Interesting, very political way of writing. I guess you could identify that as apology, but not. I guess not. But everyone, we're going to welcome Brother Kel. Brother Kel is a great contributor to the Black Bear broadcast. He's responsible for the list of Black queens, African queens that we are going through week to week. So we owe him a special thanks for the research he did on that, and we have to always give respect and appreciation where it's due. So thank you, Brother Kel.
We got the Black Betterment Organization. We got Brother Raven. We got Brother.
All right. So we're going to play this. For anything you want us to stop and talk about, we can. But for now, we're just going to play this CNN report.
An accessory when we do the MLK parade.
Just like when
they used to have those statues in plantations.
Yeah, like when Nuri brings her little yard bag or the Louis Vuitton bag.
That last voice, Council member Kevin De Leon. He's got big ambitions. Ran for mayor this year and a U.S. Senate seat in 2018. I regret appearing to condone and even contribute to certain insensitive comments, he wrote. I fell short of the expectations we set. for our leaders.
Now, this audio tells us a couple of things. The first is the kind of language that some politicians are happy to use when they think nobody is listening.
I would say many, if not all, non-black people in a political situation towards black people. I suspect that goes on now. I've always asked non-black people, do you practice this amongst your friends and family? And they're never forthcoming with the truth. But like I said, videos do come out. Oh dear. Like I said, is if you practice black betterment, not only will you not be shocked, it won't really affect you too much because your life strategy is to work with black people to be constructive. So you're not really integrated too much in non-black people's affairs. However, unfortunately, many of these people might be in powerful positions without you knowing it. They're creating policies based upon their anti-black racism to limit your progress. Oh dear.
And also, it tells us about the deep divisions amongst the left of center leaders here in Los Angeles. Now, Nuri Martinez is the child of Mexican immigrants, but she says this about immigrants from the Mexican state of Oaxaca. She calls them short, little, dark people. And she says of the Cuban American district attorney here in LA, she says, F that guy. He's with the blacks. John?
All right, Nick Watt in Los Angeles. Nick, thank you so much for that. Want to discuss now, John Avlon, CNN senior political analyst. Racist enough to resign the presidency, but not racist enough to give up your whole council seat? Explain to me how tenable that is.
She's trying to walk the line. She's trying to say, look, I'm going to acknowledge it was wrong, which is more than some politicians do, take herself out of leadership, but try to hold on to this seat and hope that she can live another political day. I think that the problem is, as Nick alluded, look, character is what you do when people aren't watching.
Exactly.
And these folks were caught on tape being racist and loathsome and cruel about the child of one of their colleagues. And it's just unacceptable.
I heard you during the whole piece, Danielle Belton, Huffington Post. We were watching Nick's piece there on the wrap-up, and I could just hear you sighing again and again and again.
Well, because it's just so familiar. I mean, the reality is there is...
Right now, for those who are listening, not watching, they're talking to a black woman about her feelings about the audio tape of racism.
A lot of anti-black racism that exists across all aspects of our society, including on the left, including within the Hispanic community. And so I wasn't surprised, but I was heavily disappointed and horrified by this behavior. But
I think that's what we got to learn, how not to be surprised and how not to be horrified. That's part of the training.
Often what goes around in the dark will eventually come to light, and that's what's happened in this situation.
This is the part that the sort of comeuppance, the karma of technology in our politics, right? So much has been brought to light, has been brought to for all of us to see, from horrific murders to horrific language behind closed doors, and to the point about character is what counts when you're behind closed doors. This technology has become the ultimate accountability. We would never know that she had said that had somebody not recorded it and put it out to the world.
So there's racism behind closed doors, then there's racism at a podium.
Yeah.
Right?
All right, so they're about to show a speech from some political individual from, I think, based in the South in America. Let's see what he's saying. Very important that we unpack this. Very important.
In front of thousands of people, and that's what we call this the racism roundup today. And I make a joke of it, but it's sad. It's sad. Alabama Senator
might be sad, but it's very common, my friend. But I'm sure you know that already.
Tommy Tuberville at a Trump event was giving this speech where he just equated black people with criminals. Listen.
They want reparation because they think the people that do the crime are owed that. They are not owed that.
These are the type of races we should appreciate. Black people, these are the type of non-black people, white people, who you should really appreciate because they let you know how they feel and what they're about. And we're going to also see some other, I won't describe these other people as necessarily racist in their comments, but it's just, I'll segue to it after this video. But this is very important to know how people feel about you, because obviously I've come from a few debates this week, and as usual, when I jump on debates trying to talk about constructive black love and constructive black economics, this kind of stuff, you have the all-inclusive brothers and sisters who jump in and they're motivated by anxiety and this kind of stuff. And it's important that they know these kind of stuff, you see, because I think they create a paradigm in their head where we're all in the same ship and we're all going to hit that finish line together. It doesn't work that way, but let's have a sneak peek critique at this individual.
So again, he thought this statement helped him politically. He walked up on this stage, presumably, with the goal of saying that out loud in front of all these people. What does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that we've gone beyond dog whistles at this point. Like, we're actually calling the dog by its name. We're shouting it out very excitedly and vociferously with no shame whatsoever. And that's a huge problem right now going on within the Republican Party, especially those who have decided to hew so closely to Trump and to basically follow him completely off the edge of this cliff here when it comes to talking about race and gender and ethnicity in this country.
I mean, surely there'll be an outcry. Surely there'll be an outcry across the political spectrum, even among Republicans about this. Yes?
Deafening in the.
It's interesting because that last comment was a racist individual who says, why would we give reparations to the criminals? Obviously just subverting the conversation about reparations. But that's a very upfront anti-black racist, white supremacist who talks this way. But the other end is the more kind, collective anti-black racists who just won't entertain the conversation at all. That's where you find that what's happening, they're not actually going to have a conversation about reparations. They're talking about how the person spoke when mentioning reparations, see? And that's kind of another thing you have to be aware of, family.
Last 24 hours. No. There has been an absence of an outcry. Don Bacon on Meet the Press went the furthest to us saying, well, you know, I would have been trying to be more polite. This is the kind of crap that would make Lee Atwater blush.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, this is screaming a conflation of reparations, crime, and racism, and the crowd cheered, and his Republican Senate colleagues have not condemned. And that's the problem.
With a little bit of, like, you know, the really racist, you know, communism weaved in that you get in the South as well. Like, they're trying to take everything you have and redistribute it for themselves. I mean, it's like kind of the trifecta of racism here.
I don't mean to be cynical, but can you sit here and tell me you don't think it will help or you think it will hurt?
In that crowd, for the base of the Republican Party, which is, to your point, melded with Trump and is just, you know, saying it out loud, no, that rallies them up. That's fine. But where is the Lisa Murkowski?
They also go into Kanye West. I think Kanye West has been, I was going to skip it, but well, this is the Kanye West thing just because it's, I guess, on context of mistreatment or confusion or whatever, or unsynchronization or whatever. But yeah, so this kind of.
Where are the Republicans? Where is Mitt Romney? Where are those who differentiate themselves and distinguish from that? Because I know they don't condone that, but they need to say it.
They need to say it and stand up and say it, no matter, even if you're a month out from the election. But we are in a general election now. This isn't just about playing to the base. They need to win moderates and independents and swing voters, and that kind of crap's not going to help.
Let me just, while we're on this subject,
just might,
before we move on to something uplifting, Kanye West on his Twitter account said something.
Doesn't know Kanye West has been blocked from certain social networks for saying certain things about Jewish people.
Again, it's just anti-Semitic. There's no other interpretation other than it's anti-Semitic. He says, going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, you guys, Jews, have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone who opposes your agenda. Now, there's some debate out there about whether or not he should be banned from Twitter. What I don't understand is why the discussion isn't about, gosh, how awful is it that Kanye West is just saying anti-Semitic things out loud?
I think there's this tendency that when it's Kanye, people just kind of go like, well, he's trolling. It doesn't matter if the trolling is hateful, damageful, ruins lives. It's like he's going to say it because he likes the attention. It's provocative to him. He feels like he's being this free thinker and this, like, giving this alternative viewpoint that is just strictly, just completely garbage.
It's Jew hating 101.
Yes.
I like to say that, you know, anti-Semitism is just a kind word for Jew hating. This is just
purely.
Purely. That.
All right, yes. And anti-black racism is another word for black hating. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to listen to an Hispanic individual talk about the same thing. Let's have a see what they say.
In Dominican.
Rewind.
This is a reminder for the entire Latino community that just because you are Latino, just because you're Mexican, Honduran, Dominican, Cuban, from whatever part of Latin America, does not mean that you cannot be racist. The LA Times is reporting a leaked audio in which several LA council members are making racist remarks, in particular towards black people and towards indigenous people. In particular, the LA City Council President, Nuri Martinez, is the one who made the worst remarks in this audio. Now, apparently these council members were unaware that they were being recorded, and the audio is 1 hour long. In the conversation, Martinez is discussing a fellow council member, Mike Bonin, who is white and has a black son. And Martinez said that the manner in which Bonin handled his son was like an accessory, and said parece changuito, or that his son was like a monkey. For an elected official to say that is obviously disgusting. Councilman De Leon seemed to...
Also, family, every time we play these videos, it's very important that when we start the show, there are 3 important lines, quotes, and that is, Black people are collectively inadequate. Collectively, Black people have no friends. And constructive Black man with constructive Black woman makes a constructive Black family. So we're trying to see.
right.
That's right. We always try to establish which one of these videos collates with those particular lines, if not all. So that's your chance today. See if you can collate some of these videos and topics with those particular things. Let's go.
Compare Bonin's handling of the child to, quote, when Nuri brings her Goyard bag or the Louis Vuitton bag. Then Martinez said, su negrito, like on the side, talking negatively and despectively about Black people. Aside from the disgustingly racist remarks these council members are making, in the audio, they also discuss in unusually crass terms how the city should be carved up politically. While the council members were on the topic of political redistricting in LA, Martinez said, I see a lot of little short dark people of the section of Koreatown employing stereotypes long used against Oaxacans in Mexico and in the US. Martinez also went on to say, I was like, I don't know where these people are from. I don't know what village they came from, how they got here. Adding, tan feos, they're ugly. Martinez also mocked Oaxacans and said, F that guy, he's with the... While speaking about LA County District Attorney...
He's with the Blacks. He didn't say the word, but he's with the Blacks.
George Gascon. After this article was published, there have obviously been lots of calls for her to resign. And in her apology statement, she says, in a moment of intense frustration and anger, I let the situation get the best of me, and I hold myself accountable for these comments. For that, I am sorry. But yeah, I don't think she's actually sorry. I just think she's sorry that she got caught.
Most non-Black people, anti-Black racists are sorry they got caught. If they'll probably continue, probably be more cautious next time. Like I tell Black people, obviously we don't fall for such silly stuff because we don't mistreat non-Black people in private. But let's just say we did. We should do that because 1, it's not nice, and 2, it can be used to undermine Black progress.
When a person speaks like that comfortably and freely behind closed doors, they are a full-blown racist. If you guys are able to find the leaked audio online and you hear Martinez speaking, she's speaking freely. No, La Tipa is comfortable with everything she's saying, meaning she's done this for God knows how long. And it would be irresponsible of her not to resign because she is a danger to her Black and Indigenous constituents.
All right, so that's the Latino opinion of one particular Latino. Now we're going to segue to a video I came across on social media. 2 videos, funny enough. Let me see if 2 videos. Kind of, it is connected, but it is definitely connected. But how I want us to interpret it is very different. Basically, it was, I don't know what the show was, but it was a European woman of European descent, a white woman, and I think her white family, maybe elders. And they're discussing if their kids were to marry a non-white person, how they will hold it up. So let's have a sneak peek, bon appetit at this. Rewind.
How would you feel if she came back with a boyfriend who wasn't white?
Oh, I won't be happy. I wouldn't be happy because
I think I assume it's an Asian person who posted this, but I could be wrong.
obviously that's just how we've been brought up.
Been brought up to stick to your own sort of thing, yeah.
There is old multicultures in every family now. It's just something you have to accept. We're all the same. We're all the same sort of people. It's just I don't think the girls can get their head around it.
I
You
never-
will do. I mean,
Right, 'cause it's the way
I
it's
ain't
been
my
brought
choice,
up,
but then that's
isn't it?
if they come home with someone and he was really good to them and he, no matter what, as long as he's going to look after them, I don't care. As long as my children are going to be looked after and have a nice life.
I think it'd be what people would say about us.
Yeah, but
I'm not the only mum to say that they wouldn't want their child with a different ethnic group. I mean, like, I think I'm probably one of many, really. But I just think as a mum, you just want... I think it's because of how we are. It's how we've been brought up. It all stems from how you've been brought up. If it's been allowed for you to mix with different cultures, then you can't see any different for your children. We was never allowed to mix with different cultures. We was always told to stick with your own, and that's what we done. It's hard. It would be hard
So the European lady saying that from birth, she was saying stick with your own. Interesting to know that.
for me. But it
Please like the video and subscribe and all that good stuff and share and care and let's be aware.
would be hard if an Indian boy brought an English girl home. It would be exactly the same reasons. I mean, you see it on EastEnders with the Masouds. And I can't think of the storyline now, but they did bring a white girl home, and Masood was going mental.
They had to have arranged marriages.
That's right. I mean, I love an Indian, so it wouldn't bother me anyway. But yeah.
So what the lady is saying is she you know it will bother her if because the question was, would it bother you if the boyfriend of your daughter wasn't white, and she said yes it would, but in this particular statement she said it won't bother her if it was an Indian because she loves Indians. So once again you're painting a picture of the dynamics in her mind of most desirable and least desirable. Not that this matters, because actually this works to black people's best interest. But what I'm saying, just you have to understand, because it's more so for the black people who are very kumbaya in their nature, and their goal is to enter other community groups and be a part of their economic structure.
Make some nice friends.
But obviously, yeah, no, I wouldn't disown them. But I would prefer them sticks in their own.
I just think everyone keeps itself to themselves now.
Yeah.
Or they move on, like these are thinking of doing.
All right, yeah. So with that one there, we saw that. Not too sure where that was from. Some kind of documentary. Would like to watch it. If you know, let me know, because I don't know. But that'd be good. But yeah. So that was that. So we're gonna unpack that, and I think I was, you know, as usual, whenever you try to debate black economics and black love, you'll be dragged back to talk about miscegenation and stuff, because that's when we start. We start with black people are collectively inadequate, and that's like the primary of what many black people find very valuable. But the issue is, you know, how I would like us to interpret that particular piece of information there is it's okay for non-black people to want their children to be with their particular ethnic group, you know, and I think that practice, if was practiced more adequately with black people when it comes to like marriage, being constructive and second generation wealth and creating institutions dedicated to black betterment. The pro-black family, the constructive man, constructive woman, these are the strategies and ways of how you do it, you see. But unfortunately, black people, we haven't been taught that. We've been taught about integration, and at this point you might as well see integration as giving away resources, really, because other people groups understand that you need to hold on to a certain amount of things before you give them away. Anyway, we're going to now play one more thing, and this is still in the theme of miscegenation. I came across this recently. I think this might be a few years or 1 year old, but there's a Norwegian musician. I have no idea who she is. I'm sure you know her more than me, if at all. And I think what she did, I think she tried to be quirky with her video. You know, sometimes artists try to go beyond the norm. And she had she's singing about love, this kind of stuff. But she tried to be very quirky by having a black man as the love interest in Norway. It's a Norwegian woman, and she was unpleasantly surprised by the response. And we're going to unpack just about black strategies, how to interpret this, and where black people might be going wrong when it comes to media and optics. Let's have a sneak peek. One of the
on the
rewind.
YouTube had to shut down the comment section of the video, so I didn't have any say in it because it became so bad that, you know, it couldn't be on the internet anymore.
So they're using text. So Sophie Ellis, I'm probably reading that wrong, released a new song, All My Friends Online. Now this could be a publicity stunt, because when they start putting the name of the song, maybe they went to research, I don't know, but maybe it is. But either way, let's just go with it. Online. So she released a new song. I'm sure it's a groovy, catchy tune. But she never imagined the social media reaction it would receive. Oh, damn, what's going on here?
Just in a few hours, I
just a few hours. Oh, well, she's now talking, so I can let's see.
Like almost 1,000 comments about just his.
So there's a picture now. I guess the love interest is a black African descendant man, and he's very close in in a romantic way to the lead singer. And she's saying that a lot of the comments are about his skin color, not necessarily the grooviness of the tunes, the presentation of the woman, whatever.
Skin color. I've been a public figure in Norway for 6 years.
Now she's based in Norway. I believe Norway did have a slave trade. I was looking at like who enslaved the most in Europe. I think Norway did inherit some of it. Am I wrong? Let me just think that. I think obviously Dutch and these kind of things. But is that right? Norway didn't they? They did, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yes. Of course. Let me see if I can find that research on there. But let me carry on playing. There you go.
And I'm used to getting reactions on what I do, but I've never seen anything as bad as this. They were talking about how the Scandinavian people wouldn't exist in a few years if we continue like this, and that.
Very think so. Let's break down what she said. In when they probably look at some as so. This woman, the way she does her face and her makeup and stuff, I think she's trying to be alluring for like her people, whatever. And obviously, what they were saying was like, you're of European descent, you're Nordic. So for those that don't know, Nordic is like Sweden and Norway and that kind of Iceland, this kind of places, right? I think Iceland, yeah. And a lot of Europeans see them as maybe they're like the pinnacle of beauty in Europe. And there's even like the sci-fi concept, like the ancient Nordic race from another planet. And a lot of people use, this is like the primary of what beauty is. And a lot of them, because they have very few melanin ratio, because a lot of the countries are quite cold, especially Iceland. They tend to be blonde and blue-eyed. And there's obviously a fascination with lack of melanin amongst Europeans, and this is desired. And obviously, but if you study Frances Cress-Welsky in her research, she understands that Europeans are quite highly recessive when it comes to melanin, and when they interbreed with higher melanin quote people, you tend to find that the phenotype or that they most desire then disappears, and they no longer count that individual as Nordic or European. They count them as either mulatto or black or Asian or whoever they interbreed with. So, and this is not desired. This is not desired, and they're letting her know that Hitler was right. Like, he tried to separate us. Why did you go ahead and promote? Remember, she's not with this black man as a boyfriend. She has a European boyfriend. But I think she's trying to be provocative and artistic and this kind of stuff. But I don't think she understood the backlash.
Hitler was right, but girls like me should have been sent into their gas chambers. So I actually think it's important in a way that people see that this is just not something that happened 40 years ago, or it's not happening here, because it is.
All right. So, and the reason, did I compress that too much? I compressed too much of that. Yeah. So the reason we showed that, because obviously we're talking about what people talk about behind them, behind the backs of them. But it also segues into like the black people, but more so black men, and this concept that I was talking about a few weeks ago, that the music is a form of optics, of promoting what is most valuable to you. And originally, black men would, well, by force, I guess, would show black women as love interests. And then as time went by, you start realizing that you're more likely to find black men promoting non-black women as the love interest in music. But when you look at Europeans, it isn't necessarily that way around. And obviously, in these particular European countries, when they try to experiment with this concept, there's abuse and death threats. And she even said that YouTube said, we have to cut the comments because it's too negative. This is not good, whatever it was. So just something to think about. Now, I did say she's from Norway, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out some of the places that had slavery. So we have the Portuguese Brazil, British Caribbean, British Caribbean, French Caribbean, Spanish Americans, that's Spanish, the Dutch Americans. Dutch is, for those who, in a better word, is Holland, right? It is Holland. I always get Dutch mixed up. Yeah, Netherlands. This is the wrong word. They say Netherlands, I'll say Netherlands. Netherlands. And North America would then be America. That would have been, I guess, part of England, but it's separated to be its own unique entity. Then you have the Danish West Indies. And then you have who's that? And then and they haven't got it here, but I do know that there are smaller ones. I think Sweden and Norway did have something. I can't see it here, but it was much smaller, as in it got taken over probably by the Dutch, I think. But yeah, we shall unpack that. It'd be good to look at the countries still the countries that benefited from slavery. That would be good. Norway slave trade. I bet if I type Norway slave trade, I'll probably get what do you call Vikings and that kind of stuff. I bet that's what they do. Denmark slave trade. Oh yeah. So I think Denmark. I said Norway. Why are you in Denmark? What? Oh, I put Norway, not Norway. Shame on me. Nothing's coming up. Whatever. We'll look at that another time. We can't do it on the fly. Danish Norwegian slave trade. That's why. So Danish and Norwegian, Denmark and Norway, also known as Dano-Norwegian realm. So I guess at some point they were unified. Is that how it works? So when Danish Norwegian from 1733 to 1807 is when there were. So I guess the Danish West Indian Company would be them. Okay, yes, all right, and British Virgin Islands and these kind of places. Okay, St. Thomas, St. John. All right, cool. Yeah, I should really know that off head, but I don't. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, because like I said, remember when we talk, we always try to see how the first three quotes we start the show with connects with today's topic. So today you get extra points if you realize that collectively black people have no friends. All right, cool, excellent. And if we are still making a ton of music videos where we believe it's our job to promote the beauty standards of other people groups and not try to focus and highlight on the beauty standards of our own people group, then that would also mean that collectively black people, black people are collectively inadequate, you see? Because that's inadequate behavior, especially when other groups do it and they get bombarded with supreme hate, you see? Don't they? And they have to shut down comments like, what's wrong with you, woman? If you go for black man, you won't exist anymore. Don't you know this? That's what they say. And I think, and this is what Francis Chris Wilson told us in her book, The ISIS Papers. Please read that if you can. Now, I believe that might be it. Let me just make sure I haven't missed any videos. Let me go back to. All right. So let's now skip a dip. Welcome, brother Kel. So yes, to this week we focus on Queen Sarraounia. I say that wrong because I'm a bad guy. And then how regularly do non-black people talk negatively about black people? Would you like to add any comments, brother Kel, to today's topic?
Yeah, brother. Once again, great presentation. Yeah, brother. The last one's very, very important, man. Because I don't think our people understand. That when you are trying to destabilize a greater threat, you need to use tactics. And these tactics, as you know, brother Raven, psychological tactics to try and get the upper hand or feel comfortable around the greater threat as what they perceive non-African people, that African are the biggest threat. So they need certain types of rhetorics, words, trickery to help them to control their dopamines and also to maneuver around us as Africans. And we forget that, we forget that we are in a psychological war, which sometimes leads to physicality, sorry. And our personal relationships with non-African people clouds our judgment as it pertains to that psychological war, man, which is a shame. But yeah, it happens daily, man.
It's funny because in regards to I think it happened twice this week. This week, there's actually there's an illustrator guy, and he's black brother, and he draws like very thought provoking imagery of black people in a comic style, I guess, right? And I invited him to the show, and he said he'll come, but he'll come in the new year. This was last year, so, and because I didn't go back to, but I'm gonna have to do it. I'm writing now. I didn't invite him, so I'll go second it back. But I think he posted a picture of a father or a mother. I think it was a father pulling his son away from a non-black woman and saying, "Hell no, you marry a black woman." Right? And I remember, obviously, it was someone posted on some page on follow, and obviously, there's massive comments. And I think obviously there was the tears and fears of one, but let me see if because when I made some comments, I think someone was asking some questions. All right, this the thing with technology, mate. You maybe was it Rap Raven who did it? Let me check if it was. And then you click that button, and then it goes. All right. Yeah, so I think somebody was asking basically like, what do you do about a person who they've obviously gone out in the world and they've married a non-black woman or a non-black man, and then something happens where years pass, maybe black people get killed or something, and then they have like a eureka moment, and they're like, you know what, I want to be more black focused, black conscious, but I know ultimately I'm gonna be kind of judged or limited because obviously I have a non-black partner, and I think he was asking me like, what would you tell that person? And I think I didn't respond if I can find it, but yeah, is that I don't know if anyone in the comment wants to answer that or jump in and talk about that. And there was another gentleman in some debate I was in, and I think he jumped in and once again it went down that way where I think the question in the forum, which is a very interesting topic that I see a lot, is can you be pro-black and not be with a black partner once you choose one? And naturally, people jumped in and people were offended, this kind of stuff. But I think one individual, a man, of course, was saying like, "Oh, well, we're trying to get equality, and if I fall for someone, then I fall for someone, and this kind of stuff." And my thing was, no, you can't be in it. It's like, regardless of the story or whatever, it's there's things you do to be seen as a certain way, and obviously, if you don't do those things, you can't be seen that way, right? But I don't know. Do you ever come across that conversation at all when you debate and stuff and people reaction?
Yeah, all the time. In fact, I'll be honest with you. In my family, they're very strict. With when it comes to those things, whether it's religion or not. Based in Birmingham, especially in northwest Birmingham, it's very Pan-Africanized. And due to certain situations, no different than like what happened in Brixton, etc. and that. But there was a relative who decided to abandon these types of lessons and teachings, and unfortunately he got abandoned, and it's been like that for a good 20 years now. And the reason why that is that we cannot afford, Brother Raven, to be in an interracial relationship, and it has nothing to do with what non-African people look like. They are human beings. It's more of a political reason, as you know. When you understand the Willie Lynch letter, and the tactics, the overseers were the non-African women, so when they have that power, they can still emulate the past, and they still do. So whenever a black person says that they're pro-black, when they're with a non-African woman or man, then you know that they're making up their own rules, and it's we have to always advise them, that they can never be part of the grassroots, but as you beautifully put in the Black Betterment organization, that they can be black betterment builders. Yeah.
So we'll break, and I was trying to break that down to some of the forms I jump in. It's high anxiety prone, and I do value discipline, but these topics, as I say, cause high anxiety, and we need to devise a strategy but I've actually found the conversation. So let me read out the quote. You must forgive the spelling or the reading. I think sometimes he might have missed some words, so I'll try to fill in. So here we go. So this is basically, for those at home who are listening, this is basically, there was a picture of a child being dragged away from his black father because he was giving flowers to a non-black woman. And the dad was like, no, you're going to marry a black woman, that kind of stuff, right? And then I think someone asked, real question, what do we tell brothers who may have been asleep to the importance of marrying black and didn't get hip to the truth after they were married? And then I jumped in and I said, too late, focus on the young ones who are not married, teach them black people don't own much, and are they happy to see their future family as non-black people running black passed down institutions? Question mark. Tell them a black family needs black men and black women. So let's break that down for what I was saying. One of the things I was trying to say, and once again, I start the show by saying black people are collectively inadequate. And what it is we've covered it before. The owning of institution, the second generation wealth. Sadly, something that seems to happen a lot is non-black people end up owning many black things or black accomplishments because they obviously they practice what is known as racial whitening. And this was a tactic that the Australians, Canadians, and to an extent Brazilians definitely, did, where they would promote to people of African descent, black people, to they're very hideous and not worth much. So you must have children with white people, more so the lower class white people. And then what will happen is your kids will become more worthwhile as they become more phenotypically more European looking. Until I think in Australia they had like a thing where they said mulatto, octoroon, quadroon, and octoroon. Then you have a white person. So I think they were saying 4 generations, you would have a white person. And then what we find in Australia, the people who coined that, is today there are blonde-eyed, blue-eyed, blonde-haired Aboriginal people who describes Aboriginal people whose great-great-granddad might have been half or part, Aboriginal, however you want to describe it. And what they do is they give away, I guess, a form of reparations or state help. But what they find is the dark-skinned Aborigines don't receive this help, but the blonde eyes, blue eyes do. And we cover that, and we see this behavioral pattern when it comes to the native Indians in Canada and America, this kind of stuff, right? Where assets and casinos and stuff ends up being owned by Europeans wearing Indian clothing. And this is something that I suspect will happen if you are very fond on this reparations claim. And also if you want to control a resource and pass it down to your children, especially if that resource is dedicated to black men. These are the methods of how non-black people will get your stuff. The reason we talk about it is because, unfortunately, black people in particular, we don't really own much, if anything. And we definitely don't have too much things that are dedicated to black people progressing. So we want to minimize giving it away. And obviously, because we're collectively inadequate and we're high anxiety prone and we specialize in subservience, what we tend to do is, we'll take a 2-hour anxiety argument over why can't I, not even why can't I marry non-black people, because as we're trying to tell you, who you marry is who you marry. But what we're saying is there are titles, and one title is known as pro-black, and you can't be called pro-black if you do that action. As you understand, many black people, unfortunately, they want titles without the works, and so they want to be called vegan but eat meat. They want to be called pro-black and be with a non-black woman. They want to be called a mountain climber but never climb a mountain. You see, but this is not how the world works. So that's why masculinity and achievement-based incentives are important, to show people that actually trying to do something and achieving it is valuable. You see, how I usually shut down many debates is I usually step in the room and I try to help black people, and then you get the competition-based black people, and they try to shoot you down and stuff, because there's usually an anxiety around someone doing something they're not doing. And then you get that, you do get, and I'm sure Brother Kel comes across that a lot. And then you usually shut them down by saying things like, well, you can always, if we can't work in collaboration, let's work in competition. So let's see if you can help more black people than me, because at least in our competition, black people are being helped, you see. And they won't even accept that challenge. You see, they won't, because they've succumbed to subservience, as in, other people do for me, and the fathers of the women I'm marrying will have to look after me. That's another thing. And this is going to sound very shocking, but unfortunately, black people have such limited to no resources that because I remember I was in a group and anxiety became very very high prone, and they were saying, oh well, you're talking. What if a black man marries, say, a white woman? Are you telling me that they can't be seen as this, and there's certain things they can't do? Like, who's going to help them? And I say this: you should ask the white man to help you. You see, and the reason I say this, and this is not to be controversial, you are now integrated into that community in the sense of resources and stuff, right? And you have to go to him to ask, now that I've married your daughter or whatever, what do I need to do to better myself, whatever? But you won't be able to get that from black community because we're so limited. And as you can tell when we played the video, many white people think this way anyway.
Be happy. I wouldn't be happy, because obviously that's just how we've been brought up.
Yeah, many Europeans are brought up that way, and this is not a bad thing, And one of the things I try to tell black people as well is, and I'll need to write it down, but the Europeans, white people. The reason why you can't compare Europeans to black people is because their actions was a two-step action. So let's break that down.
That's right.
Step one was to mistreat black people and take the resources, and step two was to keep the resources among their people group, right?
That's right.
But black people, we're not practicing two steps. We're practicing one step, and that is sharing our resources. You see,
Yeah.
we don't desire to mistreat non-black people the way non-black people mistreat black people. But because of high anxiety and high subservience, black people and some white people will equate us trying to practice group economics as the same as enslaving people, raping them, making them forget their ways, their religions, and their normalities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is an inaccurate way of thinking. And the only way you can say is you must remember that unfortunately black people are collectively inadequate, you see. And when you remember that, it all makes sense, you see. And then you can try to be, yes.
That's why, Brother Raven, whenever they do decide to go down that way of saying, there's no more enslavement, it's very important that the African descendant who's learning about political science can always define how they are practicing racism. How I always define it is that any time non-African people need to deny and control your human rights with their mannerism, face expression, body language, and the character that they are in, whether it be a religious label or not, and they do that in the institutions, you can more understand racism that way instead of the words like covert, and because these are not detailed ways of breaking down racism. We need it to be defined and broken down so the young African descendant kids can break it down. Oh, that's racism. Okay, you're denying controlling African human rights as a collective. You're doing it the way how you are expressing your face expressions, your mannerism, your behavior. These things are very important. Also, brother, is that we as a people don't understand that non-African people, they have a very high level of surviving, and they will go to extreme lengths to survive, whether it be using you in order for them to survive, whether it be your resources, as what you mentioned, anything that will give them the upper hand, they will go to extreme lengths to keep that in their hands. And we can't understand it because we would never do it ourselves. We wouldn't go around the dinner table and make up names for non-African people, or go out and, let's divide blonde hair, ginger hair, or brunette hair, or let's divide. We don't think that way. It's very strange to us to do that. But whereas with them, because of the threat as we are, whether you're a chocolate brown complexion, chocolate caramel complexion, or chocolate vanilla, or whatever who you are as it pertains to the African, you are a big threat. So you need to understand how to combat these things. And I always say, separate personal relationship from political relationship with non-African people, and you'll be able to see their unethical code of conduct.
Yeah, very good point there. And and we do need to do those kind of courses too. I mean, it happens a lot, especially when you allow non-black people in forums. It's interesting because I've been in a few this week, and all these things were practiced. Also, trying to control conversations with high anxiety and screaming and this kind of stuff. Shouting words like "racist," "you're a racist." I was in the forum, I think yesterday, maybe the day before, and I don't know if the individual identified as I think she might have. Well, I could be wrong. I don't know if it's a she or he, but I think they could identify as biracial, and everything they were saying was of anti-black narrative, you see. And and the reason my area of interest was this was a black forum, yet so much time was given to the person who didn't necessarily identify as black in any kind of way, or African or anything like that, and their feelings on these topics of black love. And it was just interesting that so much time and effort and people be trying to talk to people being muted, and it's very interesting. And so my area of interest is the black people controlling that forum.
Yeah.
Your intention really to have a constructive black dialogue, or is it to listen to the anxieties or the so-called anxieties of unsynchronized and non-black people? It's
Yeah.
and that's something we have to work. There were some shows I used to watch in the past where they highlight that this show is for black people. So
Yeah.
if we have 1 hour and we have 7 questions, because black people are suffering the most, we're going to get the questions from the black people first because
Yeah.
they're here to find solutions, while the others might be here out of interest or to waste time. Who knows, right? So and I think giving priority to black people on black-based topics, especially constructive black people seeking betterment. I think we need to prioritize that. I get it that controversy and hoo-ha is very entertaining. However, time wasting is one of the greatest weapons a can have. Like, can you imagine if we hated non-black people and we were to do a kind of strategy to make them time waste? How devastating it would have on their economy and their progression. But yet, this is what we see in all of our kind of meetings. And I would argue that if we're in a pro-black kind of circle and we're spending 20 minutes or 20 hours talking about being with a non-black person as a partner as a primary thing we should be doing, then clearly something is wrong.
That's a problem, though. That's definitely unsynchronized, man.
Definitely unsynchronized,
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's and like I said, what I try to do when I go on these places, and I recommend, is try to find out 1 or 2 constructive black person, take their details, invite them to something you're doing at the Black Bear broadcast. Let's try to slowly but surely build a constructive collective think tank, I guess, right? Where it's very constructive. The pace of this show isn't bombastic or very controversial, so you're not going to get the thousands of people straight away, because obviously negative news flies faster than positive news, right? But what you can get is a dedicated, most sincere people. And I think one by one, let's work together to try to form a movement or an idea, a collective group dedicated to black betterment, and try to give the guidance to the greater community. Because it was very shocking to say, not shocking, I don't use that word because it wasn't shocking at all. I knew it, but I use it just as I guess hyperbole. But just to see, there was a gentleman who really wanted to talk about how he can be pro-black and date a non-black person, and why it's important for him to date a non-black person. And there was also, and that's another thing. There was and I tried to invite this sister onto the show, and maybe next time I come across, I do. She had some story about she had dated a few black men, I guess, in the attempts to be married to them, and they like she had suffered a loss or like a miscarriage when she was in a bedroom with her boyfriend, and the boyfriend just turned around and walked away and didn't support her, this kind of thing, and this devastated her. She found that and then after whatever, she dated a European individual, and this European would drive to her house and buy chips and whatever it is that she was she was going, well, the black men, when I'm in my most darkest time I was with, they didn't look out for me, but the white man was there to buy me chips and this kind of stuff. I was like, first of all, you've described some trauma, and we want to unpack that and make sure you're okay with it. But I'm not there picking your black man, and obviously we're trying to reform black men. But I gave an analogy a few weeks ago about this concept that, unfortunately, if historically you have black men and European men being constructive to an extent in their community, and then one European man comes to Africa, whatever, or the Caribbean, wherever, and then locks up all the black men. And as you've locked them up and you've kept them in chains and you've kept them in bondage, whatever, you've learned all these mechanisms of how to conduct yourself, or how you want me to conduct yourself, that you deem, or the world deems as polite and kind, whatever, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And then you release all these black men at one time, and then now you go to the women, and now the women are like, whoa, this man is so much more educated, this man is so much more polite, but you're not really acknowledging the trauma that these black men have gone through. And I'm not saying, pick a black man, pick a white man. I'm just saying that regardless of the horrible circumstance of why you pick to be for a non-black person, you cannot have the title as pro-black, because pro-black is pro-black everything. You're trying to progress black people because you recognize, unfortunately, we're collectively inadequate. And if we don't have a constructive black man, have a constructive black woman, we can't have constructive black families. And constructive black families is how you push people groups forward, unfortunately, see? Unfortunately. So yeah, it would be good if we could have other misogynists and these kinds of stuff on just for us to explain these kinds of things. Because what I also found as well was she was equating pro-blackness with being black, which, don't get me wrong, I think that's a great strategy to and marketing to actually make them synonymous, right? I think that's great. However, what she was saying is just because I don't date black men, you can't say I'm not black enough. I'm like, okay, I'm not saying you're black enough. You could be, whatever, but you're not pro-black. You're not going to cease to be a black person when you date anyone. But you cannot have the title of pro-blackness. Pro-blackness is an effort. It's a doing. It's a dedication. And obviously, we want to try to make sure that men are as constructive as possible and women are as constructive as possible. But we have to teach this. We have to teach them. This is the challenge we face.
Yeah,
big challenge. So, family, in the any questions in the actual group? Anyone that I haven't not tagged. I haven't pinned the thing. I'm not going to pin it because I can't go to log in. But if you want to join the discussion, especially if you're a woman as well, we like having women on the show. Feel free to jump in. The two topics, obviously, we discussed the Queen, which is always good, just a little history lesson. That's always fantastic. But we also talk about how regularly do non-black people talk negatively about black people. Funny enough, this show is for black people. We don't, it's for black people to network and do that kind of stuff. But and obviously, non-black people have jumped on to troll and to mistreat black people from time to time. But we haven't actually invited any non-black people. And I think if we ever were to invite any non-black to the show, it would probably be to ask these questions, because obviously we can't directly answer this question, can we? Because we're not there. And I do wonder if they would be honest and straightforward of how regularly. It's funny, there was an Asian woman in one of the forums I was yesterday, and she was talking about her mother and father and how she had to keep on schooling them that the behavior patterns were racist towards black people. And I see a big theme in that. And I'm very thankful for the honesty of the non-black community, especially Asians and Arabs who go, yes, my family despises black people, and I try to teach them, but it's rooted deep history rooted in and the thing you have to understand, black people, and this shows you the nature of non-black people. The true reason why people hate black people is because black people were victims of violence. You see, that's what it is. Because black people were the victims of enslavement, genocide, rape, and this kind of stuff. There is no compassion for the history of what black people have gone through. You see, not at all. So when you ask what is it that you hate about them, they can't really describe it, and they'll start making up some stuff. But from the research I've done, it literally is because black people were victims, and a lot of people groups, especially certain types, they don't like the kind of empathy or sympathy, what it is, for people who were victims of horrible acts. You see,
I remember.
I was going to say this. That's why, unfortunately, when you go to where is it, Indian or Arab, and they come home with a black husband or black wife, you tend to find that the chairs will fly, the tables will fly. But if they come home with, say, a white husband, white wife, the tables will not fly as far. But what you understand is that your white person, European, their ancestor or their economics of their country base was based upon the subjugation and colonization of those Arab and Asian places. But yet, they would rather have their children be with that than black people. So that shows you that collective black people have no friends, and as much as you want to be subservient to that culture, you're probably best not to do that. But you're going to say, Brother Carl, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember years ago, man, some of the elders, they said something very interesting which the viewers may find shocking. But what was told to me is that the non-African people, they have a love and hate relationship with us as Africans. In one hand, that we came before them, and they have like a benchmark that you're supposed to be up there, and you're this some form of superior type of being that has done all these things, and we look up to you. And then on the other hand, it's like, because you haven't been doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you've allowed yourself to get there, you have broken our dream, so we're going to mistreat you. And I remember this years ago, man. It was like, I found it very interesting. That's what I see with non-African people. In one hand, they respect the things that we can do,
Yes.
and then it's almost as if they punish us for allowing them to mistreat us.
Yeah.
Whether they're in religion, which is very interesting, and you kind of like spark that memory back, like, you know, the fact that they hate us because of we're allowed to be mistreated is very unethical, and needs to be unpacked by African people to understand that we're dealing with very, very neurosis type of behavior towards us. Because if you look at it in a humane type of way, brother, is that if you're being oppressed
Yes.
and trampled on, you're not supposed to hate that. You're supposed to have empathy to reassure, to get the person back on the feet. And that's very interesting how you mentioned that, brother Raven, man. Really, honestly, man.
Yeah. And let me add to that, and that is this. The funny thing is, many unsynchronized black people, they really want to be respected and loved by non-black people, right? And they do everything. So the thing I'm about to say here is not to get the respect of non-black people, because self-determination and self-love is the primary. But if your goal was to be respected and loved by non-black people, the best thing you could do is fix your community group. And in the process of being fixed, that's when they would want to be more around you, right? But not that you should then give away your resources and your time.
That's right.
The perfect example is the, we want reparations, and obviously we show what the person was saying about reparations. Let's see if we can actually just find it, just for a where is that one? Let's see.
As well, like.
Wait, I'm just gonna see if I can speed it. Is it? I'm trying to. Was it early or was it late? This shit. Let me see. It's a shame that. Hold on. No. If it's seconds, but sure they should. No, it's weird. Maybe it lasted 17 seconds, and this thing really skips by. But there's a. There we go. I found it. We're here. Let's play it. Listen. This is about reparations.
They want reparation because they think the people that do the crime are owed that. They are not owed that.
So that's their response to reparations. So those are reparations, paying back for the enslavement, the murder, genocide, and the kidnapping. That's what tends to happen when you do wrong to a nation, right? But historically, Japanese wanted reparations, and they said no, but because the war was on, and Japanese lost the war. But after Japan became an economic powerhouse, Japan said, we won't actually do anything until you correct the mistreatment you did to Japanese citizens who were allegedly Japanese Americans. And then they said, yes, now that you're an economic powerhouse, we shall pay reparations. That's how power works. You try to educate black people, that's how it kind of works. But you're not trying to get power so you can be more subservient. You're trying to get power because you're trying to fix your community. And the byproduct of that is people respect you more. You see?
That's why I respect what Dr. Claude Anderson says, man, in his book, in regards to due to our disorganization of the people, that the Europeans, they're able to dictate who can be classed as white.
Yes.
And they can also dictate who can access that wealth, and who can be minority to access that wealth, and who can use their religion as a business to maneuver. And it kind of speaks to for some of the sisters or the brothers who like to say, well, the non-Africans, they're not all bad, but the non-Africans, they have the ability to have one foot in and one foot out, because of the power dynamic, as you know, Brother Raven, is that they can be all friendly, appear to be humanitarian, but at the same time, you will not be able to get them collectively to fight against this oppression. And it's very sad as well because you done a show on it before. It was, do you remember the Error Prone
Yes.
show? And it had like there was an African descendant sitting down and was some non-Africans, Europeans, and they were sitting down all together holding hands. And the sad thing about it is that they have that ability to be good and bad. And because of our dopamines, unfortunately,
yes.
Towards them, is that they always trigger our emotion to not make us rely on our logical political science, that they can do that in good times and bad times. It's a shame, but yeah, you know, we have to be very careful of this interracial relationship.
And that does tie into that concept where, and I think because black people are so used to mistreatment on a high level and so longing to be accepted that, you know, a kind smile and a kind acknowledgement of your pain is worth 10 points to you. It's like 10 out of 10 for that. But you know, you have no expectation of them dying for you or paying reparations or fixing challenges or giving you good advice like no black man, you fix your community before you come and fix mine. You know, they won't give you that. You know, I think I even tried to give some advice to the brother works on the internet. I said, well, you can always test a person's, you know, you can use hyperbole to test a person's, you know, mindset. And I said, well, if your cousin or whatever wants to marry a non-black person and they still want to, you know, contribute to black empowerment, black betterment and stuff, well, why don't you tell them, okay, well, I'm going to marry you, non-black woman, but it's okay if all my assets and resources when I die then get shifted to my sister, who then will then shift my resource assets to the black community, to some organization, and see what they say. If they say, yeah, of course, but I suspect they won't, because like I said, they might make you, and this is to tackle the question that people marry for love, as I think Dr. Umar said, when you get divorced, they don't try to take their love back, they try to take the money, you see. So obviously it plays a part in marriage. So this is the thing we have to remember, that we like the Disney cartoons about, you know, you met in a magic kind of roundabout and you fly to the heavens and this love at first sight, whatever. But actually economics plays a big part of how you sustain a family and a people group. And unfortunately, as you find, if you were to go to the football league in the UK and just randomly grab any black man who makes a lot of money, more than all of us combined, you will find that they will almost like 9 out of 10 have a white wife, not even a non-black wife, a white wife. As you're seeing we did this research before, we got all the England players who played for England, black England players, I should say. And we looked at we tried to do research here. So where was the dates? The first date would have been the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and 21 were found. And the 21 were with European women or white women, but only 5 were with black women. And Cyril Regis was the first black English player who had a black wife. So we were talking about, why don't we make a Regis Award to honor black football players? Just as these are optics and these are marketing strategies, you see. These are like ideas just to highlight the importance of black men having black women, especially if you're constructive and wealthy, because you can do a lot with that. And then we obviously looked at today, you know, the legacy of those people and the younger generation coming up. And today we found even more. There's 39 black people with European wives, and only 7. Only 7. So obviously there's something going on, and they won't. You can give this information to non-black people and black people, and they will talk about everything apart from self-hate, racism, and they'll talk about everything like, no, it's love first sight, or when you're rich, you only see a certain rich person, or black women don't hang around in the bars where all this kind of stuff, where football players go. But we all know this is not how it works. And then we also go into like directors who were given a chance in the UK. All of them were with non-black women, and one obviously with Asian woman. And then only one that I found. I don't know how much of a director he is, but congratulations to the brother. I think he's had 3 wives and all 3, even though we want them, we want them all married for once. But if unfortunately sometimes they break up, but he seems to be picking a woman from different parts of the diaspora. So big up that brother. And so this is the research we do. A lot of people might think I'm obsessed with marriage and wives and girlfriends, this kind of stuff. When I decided I was going to dedicate my life to helping Black people progress, as a young person, you don't know what the problems are, and you go, wherever the problems are, you're going to tackle it. So if it's in criminality, if it's in health, if it's in education, if it's in families, I will tackle it. It just so happens that actually the most primary thing about progressing as Black people is the Black family. I've tried to get around it so many ways, but without a Black family, you can't second generation wealth, you can't have your meetings, you can't. There's so much things that you limit yourself to by not picking a constructive Black woman or a constructive Black man. And we can have a conversation about that for many of the sisters who, because I know this is going to be a controversial view, family. But even though, we say back and forth, that's what you have to do. I am aware that unfortunately Black men might look to be with a non-Black woman at a higher rate, historically and today. So we have to tackle there, because when we talk, some of the pattern I've noticed is Black women talk about, in their belief, not being able to find a Black man, while Black men talk about Walt Disney and love at first sight and this is the woman who the gods told me I should have, this kind of stuff, right? Well, well, Black men tend to talk about Black women is and that tragic woman yesterday, the tragic tale, not the woman, the tale itself, of how she was with Black men and she didn't really feel supported and she went through terrible downs and downs. And it was the European man who bought chips at night that really seemed to and this is what it is. If a white man buying you chips at night is the most romantic and concerning thing, then clearly something is wrong in that situation. But so as just a coincidence, Kwasi he was in charge of finance, was fired today. This is him. He's here, the Black British Conservative Party. So this brother, he was given, I think, for 39 days in charge of currency and economics, this kind of stuff, whatever. And I don't know if he did a good thing or a bad thing, but apparently they fired him. And once again, he was on our radar because all Black politicians are on our radar, and we tried to find one. Did we? Yeah, we couldn't find one who was with a Black woman. Not one. Now, I'm sure if you guys know any Black politicians alive, who is married to a Black woman, please let us know. You will give you a award. And what I'm saying is, this is not shocking to a Black community. This is not shocking. This is like, that's normal. This is all I'm saying is, this is why we need institutions dedicated to promoting Black love. Where all our politicians, this is normal. Yeah, so it's something we need to work on in America as well. Interesting stuff. Racial whitening there, how it works. But I do invite misogynists, people who've gone through experience, people who subscribe to the Walt Disney kind of narrative of how marriage works, or whatever. Invite to the show, because I could be wrong. Because actually, Black people's liberation could come through not being with Black people. Maybe you might be right. Maybe what Black people should do is not be with Black people and be with non-Black people. And maybe giving our resources away is what we should be doing. If that's true, come on the show and let's talk about it. I invite you all, because we could be wrong. Yeah.
I believe also that and this is going to be very controversial. Back to the video, what was displayed is that because the community of non-African people, they are taught at a very young age, and a lot of people like to compare this to Pan-Africanism, how we're taught, but it's completely different. But what I do know is that if they're fed, you know, political, unethical code of conduct, you know, with words and languages and tactics, subconsciously, and they're not aware of that, they can make them very dangerous. And this is why we always say that the moment you hear as an African descendant, any form of deflecting, any form of a joke or a comment that is denying and controlling your African human rights, then we can definitely explain that's unethical code of conduct. Anything that is like saying things like, oh, but slavery was a long time ago, I haven't done this, you know, this happened, we can't say or anything that takes away from the fact that you are the focus and the victim. And if you take away any focus from the victim, then you're practicing unethical code of conduct. And we must be able to analyze it. They will all do it, unfortunately, because their code will be attacked. While when you speak the truth, that's why I always say, you don't have to talk about non-African people's mothers or their parents or anything like that. Just tell them the truth in a political way, and their code of conduct will start to activate. And then they will get very emotional. They will start to act like they're possessed. And all you have to do is remain very calm and very strategic, and they'll reveal everything that you need to know, which will typify that they all practice unethical code of conduct. It's a political strategy, and we should always take heed to that.
Brother Kel, wonderful piece of information. We like to say welcome and hi to Melanated Goddess. Welcome to the show, the panel.
Peace, brothers. Peace, everybody in the chat.
Big up, sis.
Now, sis,
long
time, but like I said, you're always welcome back, and it takes as long as you need. And when you're back, we're always happy to see you. Today's topic is, and we've already segued here and there, but the topic is about do non-black people practice talk negatively about black people behind their back, I guess we're saying. But also we segued into the dynamics between black men who choose to not be with a black woman and black women who choose not to be with a black man, and the difference. Is there anything you'd like to talk about in this last section of the show? We could dedicate to you. Have free reign to say what you want. What would you like to talk about, sister?
So in regards to if non-black people talk about black people, I'm sure they have their opinions, you know, like just like everyone does. Like if, you know, Kanye wore a White Lives Matter shirt, I'm sure that non-black people are, you know, just having discussion about it, with whether it's with their spouses or their friends or their family members or whatever. Yeah, I think that goes on. So if that conversation goes into a negative thing, where I think there's a little bit of everything that happens. I think that if a person shares certain views, like, hey, you know, I don't want them moving in my neighborhood or whatever. I think when they're amongst their own, they would obviously feel more comfortable. Just like when I'm in a all black environment and I feel like I'm amongst my fam, I could just, you know, it's like a different type of thing. You know, I remember my son had a friend who his mom was white and his dad was black, and they had split. So, and their birthdays were only a few days apart. So the mother was like, oh, do you want to have like their birthdays at the pool, at like a little pool party, just invite some of their friends over? And I was like, okay, cool. You know, we kind of went half on some of the, you know, the food and stuff like that. And I remember my son was saying, oh, Mom, I'm about to go to the house and change and then go out with my friends because there's no pretty girls here. And then the woman said, there's girls here. And he says, yeah, but they're all white. And she was like, that's kind of mean. And I said, how is that mean? If my son don't find white girls attractive, don't do that here. And I stopped her like really fast. But she didn't understand why a black boy would not like black girls because when she was younger, black boys like her. I guess that's kind of how it was in her mind.
So, why black boys don't like non-black girls or white? So
Oh yes, non-black girls. I'm sorry. Why a black boy would not want a non-black girl?
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I think there was something recently in the UK where that happened. Oh, so there's a UK actor who's based around the world now, about John Boyega. He did Star Wars, and he recently said he wants to be with a black woman, preferably very dark, and I think there was a bit of a shock, and obviously we covered it 2 weeks ago that a black man would actually want to, and this is the optics that unfortunately black men might be creating by not staying dedicated to black women, when from a mainstream optical level, because you start training the world that you love everyone but black women. You see.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah, and this is something that but don't get me wrong. Obviously, black people don't control too many resources, so we can't necessarily control fully how we're represented in the public. But I can say that if you're someone who has a platform or someone who's in the public eye in some kind of way, who you marry and who you promote in your shows, your podcasts, all this kind of stuff, these is how you create the optics that black men are dedicated to black women. You see. So that's still the campaign. The Black Love campaign is still there. But unfortunately, there is much work to be done because many black people have been trained not to necessarily value blackness, whether they know it or not.
Right. No, I agree. And when it comes to, I think that like there's so much in the age of like cancel culture and just all of the social pressure to like be okay with everything. When you take a firm stance on something, you're black sheeping yourself. You know what I mean? Like even amongst black people, black, why, like you wouldn't want why would you care if your son was with I mean, as long as they love each other and
Yeah.
And
it's probably
I'm like, the world is more than daggone love. I'm sorry.
The thing is, so trying to have purpose-based communities where there's goals and agendas. So if we can promote purpose, like, okay, we're trying to make institutions dedicated to black betterment. We're trying to have industries that support black economics. And part of this process is, who you marry and them inheriting and the support you have and turn up in the meetings and being on front page magazines with your wife, this kind of stuff. All this stuff is part of a process. And if we make that process important, then we can say, well, if you don't marry a black woman, then you're limiting that from happening, isn't it? A black man or whoever, right? And I think that, but I always remember to always say when you talk about the Walt Disney community and stuff, you have to always say constructive black man, constructive black woman. Because what they were saying, oh, do you want your daughter to be beaten up by a brutish black man? That's what they are. I hear that a lot, especially in these forums. Like when you try to promote black love, they go, you would rather your daughter beat up by a brutish black man than be for a romantic white man. That's usually where they go.
Very unsynchronized. Very unsynchronized.
So you have
Wait,
to
black people are saying that?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh.
Attempts at trying to derail the importance of constructive black love, or black love, I should say, right? So the way you should frame it, or I would recommend framing it, is constructive black man with constructive black woman. And also a very good idea is because what people use this concept of biracialness as a weapon. And what I mean by that is they'll say, oh yes, I can marry one because the offspring will be black or considered black. And I think not that I'm here to discuss qualifications of who's black, who's not, but what we can discuss is the concept of a black family, you see. And a black family has to be black people, i.e. the Start Foundation, black man, black woman. If you don't have a black man and black woman, it's not a black family. So that is how I would use that concept to talk to people that know if you want a black family, you marry a black person, right? And we can't say you have a black family. Don't do that. And we most certainly can't say you're pro-black because you're not practicing pro-black. This is what you have to do. Unfortunately, you have to have social strategies of talking because people will try to demonize black betterment, Pan-Africanism, B1, all this kind of stuff. And unfortunately, the victims of mistreatment are black people. So we need to have better strategies than the victimizers in how to progress and have legacies and institutions dedicated to fixing the issues that we go through daily.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There you go. So family in the forum, any questions, let us know. The link is there. Feel free to jump in if you have any questions. The topic today is how regularly do non-black people talk negatively about black people? But we also segued into a video of a British couple, British family, talking about how displeased they would be if their son came home, if their daughter came home with a non-white partner, and there was more preference towards Indians than black people, as you tend to find. But what I'm saying is, I would never want anyone to be upset or disparaged with that. I think it's a good thing. I think we shouldn't critique or criticize non-black families for wanting to marry within their people group because they understand how economics works and how cultural preservation it works. So I think that rather than be upset that you can't marry into the European community, you should try to marry within your own community and fix the multitude of problems that is the legacy of colonization, anti-black racism, white supremacy, neocolonization, and enslavement, all those terrible things that cause black people to be collectively inadequate. So remember that when you watch that video, it's not a slight on the European family there, because I kind of support them in their action. Do what you're doing, we do what we're doing. And then we also ended by showing a Norwegian singer who decided to be controversial and have a black model as the love interest in a musical song. And this sparked a massive debate in the country of Norway, saying that you're gonna kill our race because you're promoting us breeding with a more a biologically stronger people group who will dominate our recessive genes, and what it will be produced will no longer be Nordic and Caucasian. So please don't do this. And it was a big call, but we use this as a reference to if this is how we're asking the question: how many times do we see European men or Asian or Arab men using black women, especially dark-skinned black women, because they're the quintessential essence of people that we promote for branding purposes and stuff. How many times do you see those type of phenotypes of women in the music groups of Arabs, Asians, Europeans? Probably none, if ever. And if it was, it probably would be done in a derogative way, which is always most unfortunate. But then in our music group, and the reason we say music is we get very rarely do we get a chance to shine a idea to the world, and sometimes music and media might be the only way. And if we're at a high rate are showing the people group women of other communities while not showing our own women, especially in a positive light, while they're also showing their women, that will highlight why many people might view that black men's preference is non-black women, which isn't true. But obviously, from an optic standpoint, that's how it works, and that's why I gave examples of when you watch cartoons from Japan and things. When they make black boxers and black football players and stuff, they tend to draw them with blonde, blue-eyed wives as the norm. And I think we want to control the narrative to make sure that black men are with black women. All right. Any questions, let us know. But if not, we're going to have to go.
I would like to maybe just give my position on what I think is happening lately. I think that the black this we like you stated, and we've known that the black family has been in jeopardy for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the concept of family and marriage, and Black men seeing the Black woman as his counterpart, has been in some problems for quite some time. And I think that Black men, as a collective, not, there's definitely exceptions to the rule, but Black men as a collective are at least showing that they don't see the Black woman as their family, but they quickly make families with non-Black women. So like they quicker propose and go towards marriage with non-Black women, whereas Black women are like girlfriends for 10 years, 13 years. Like they will have their babies, they will live together, but you know, my family, like I don't, like I'm tying myself legally and financially to you. For some reason it's a problem, but this white woman who represents the white woman who watched you when you was getting hung, you know what I'm saying? Like, you want to marry her. Hold on, sorry, y'all.
It's probably detected a person of non-Black descent in your house. So
yeah, Amazon's supposed to be coming, so I think they here on Amazon.
Yes, I understand you train your dogs well. I understand. Right. So it's what the sister was saying for those. And this is something we should cover. This it's very important. And I think obviously it happens in the UK, but America is more from optical standpoint. And so you can look at many Black, maybe rappers, football players, whatever it is, and they have children and they have girlfriends in the Black community for a long time. And then when they date a non-Black woman, it's like one week of dating, marriage, and they have half the resources, and they tend to be much younger and in better condition than the Black man. So chances are they will inherit the wealth much quicker. And I remember there's a rapper who married an Asian woman. I think Young Jeezy. I think he's recently married a Asian woman. And there was a comedian of African. I think he might be. I don't think.
No, Dave Chappelle is married to a non-Black as well.
Yeah, but this comedian, he was in Friday, one of the sequels, and I think he recently got married to I think he got married to an Asian woman. A lot of comedians with Asian women, and yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. It is an issue, and that's why I think culturally we have to have campaigns to highlight that Black love is a revolutionary act, a constructive Black love, to say, and I think that should be the way. And
so
we have to go.
Can I be transparent with you, Brother Raven and Brother Kale? I want to be just totally transparent. My child decided he wanted to date outside his race, and it was a problem, right? Because your mom is melanated goddess, right? So like, don't compromise, and I'm not gonna change my stance just because you're handsome and you look like me. That's not gonna happen.
No.
So every time we try to talk about this girl, I said, listen, who you sleep with, I don't need to know. I don't want to know anything about her. I don't want to know her name. And he was like, dang, Mom, no, I mean, sir, listen, it's no problem. Then all of a sudden, time passing, I don't know if she was like, when I'm gonna meet your mom or whatever, all of a sudden these requests coming. I said, no. We're not doing that. I am not going to play that role and give her the seal of approval, because when she meets your mom, she's going to think this is legit. So you can come here anytime. I can meet you at a restaurant. We can have mother and son brunch. I'm not going to disown you. But you're not coming to my house and sit down, and I'm not coming to your house if your house is with her. That's just not happening.
Have you spoke to your son about? So what I tend to do is,
I talked to my son about the wealth stuff. I talked to him about the DNA stuff. I told him I want my grandchildren to look like me. I'm nice. I'm grown, right? All of that he knows. So the other day, so they broken up now, right? Him and the girl have broken up. And the other day, it was him, his homeboys, and a girl. But I've known this little girl since they was like in almost primary school, or what do you call it, secondary school or whatever, right?
Yeah.
They were all talking. So the young man that was there, he's mixed race, right? And he said, "Ma'am, your son is low key racist." I said, "Why is he racist?" He was like, he just say really funny things. He says weird things about white people, and he was dating a white girl. And he said that my son said, "I can't get too serious about her because she's white." Right? That's what my son said. And I said that's because he was raised right, and his conscience was feeling funny, doing what he knew he wasn't raised to do. And he says, "Yeah, like he complains about like she wasn't feeding him right, and he recognized that he had to put aside part of his culture to to share a world with someone who has a different culture." And so I made the comment about my grandkids looking like me. And a young man said to me, he said, "So what am I? Am I like trash? Do I look bad to you?" And I said, "Young man, it's not my call to say that you look bad. That's for your grandparents. If they must have not cared if their grandkids looked like them. They was probably cool with their son or their daughter dating outside their race. But that's my choice. If I want my son to have a nice, ebony young woman, wife, I don't tell my son, have a baby mother. I say, get your shit together, create a family, right? And it's going to be a black family." And his friend was just listening like, because I don't know if he dates black, being that he's 50% black. I don't know. But yeah, we all go through those kind of things.
What I recommend, obviously people can have their own strategies because they know the environment's better than me. But what I tend to do is I tend to talk more, less about like the offspring and that kind of stuff, and more about would you be happy if you created something and in 3 generations or 2 generations or whatever it might be, a white person was controlling what you made? Like, would you be happy to see that looking down? Because essentially that's what you're creating. You're creating that process. So, and the thing is, whatever you do as a parent, to tell to the daughters and sons, it's harder to tell them not to do it. So if they don't see you marrying a brother or sister in the community, then they don't need to do it. And like I said, you realize that the person who identifies biracial who you're speaking to, he already has mixed kind of feelings now. He has one loyalty towards marrying a white person, one loyalty towards marrying a black person. More likely probably the white person, right? And what
But because his parents are, so for him, it's really torn because of his parents.
Yes,
like you can't just undo who your parents are, or like now see your mom, or see your, like if your mom is white or if your dad is white, you're not just gonna see them or what they represent as evil, or bad. I shouldn't say evil, but you're not gonna see it in a bad way. And I don't blame him. That's his mama.
But sometimes I think I would never try to describe the European or the non-black or the black as evil or good, or that has happened historically, even though you would have to teach that reality. Where I would attack from is, unfortunately, the people group that your dad is from, say your dad is black, have been mistreated for over 400 years, you see, yeah? And the people group that your mum is from has been doing the mistreating, and they have the world's wealth at their backs. And if black people don't unite and try to practice betterment and unity and utility, that pain and suffering will continue. And what we understand is a good strategy, of the perfect strategy, is constructive black man, constructive black woman, constructive black family. And this is the starting room. So we don't need to get into the other stuff. If you push it, you can go there. But generally, it isn't necessary, because black people, we need to focus on the fact that there's much work to be done. And it can't be done if you're dividing your time and resources. It just makes it very difficult. because you're gonna have meetings, and every meeting you have one person stand up and shouting. You know, yesterday or the day before there was a so-called biracial person. This person might have been trans. This person might have been trolling. I don't know, but this person, there was constant anxiety every time I mentioned constructive black man, constructive black woman. And what I'm saying is, when you have
Why? They didn't like that term?
no, they didn't like the concept of telling black people that it is valuable to be a black woman. Now, don't get me wrong, trolling and anxiety can be used as a weapon to undermine black progress. You see, and I'm also suspicious when someone is constantly going off on one uncontrollable because it's a technique. And obviously black people are always there to try to make people feel better and hear what everyone's opinion. So when you're in like these clubhouse spaces and there's hundreds of people talking and one
I was
person
just about to ask you if you was on Clubhouse because it definitely sounds like one of those
yes,
clubhouse toxic environments that
very
that exist.
it is. And what I'm gonna have to do at some point is because I've been doing some projects I can't do it, but I will try to create a black betterment clubhouse forum or whatever, and in it we'll have very dedicated rules, and we're going to try to minimize the anxiety attacks and everyone screaming and this kind of free for all WrestleMania stuff, whatever, because it is a good platform to use, but obviously discipline. I think discipline comes first, and everywhere I go I like to use discipline as value and purpose, so that's what it is. But thank you, family. It's been a great show. Would you like to have your last words? Well, I'm going to say they're probably last words, Goddess.
Oh no, I just want to say peace, big up to everybody. This is a good show. All of your shows are good, just focused on our community, and this is more of what the kind of content that we need. So do share the show to all of your like-minded people, so that Brother Raven's channel can grow. All of the garbage channels are growing, so this channel should definitely, it deserves it. So that's it. Peace. Big up everybody.
Big up, sis. Also, Brother Raven, the Honorable Marcus Garvey says the white man has succeeded in subduing the world by forcing everyone to think his way. The white man's propaganda is influential and has made in the mass of the world, and those who have come in contact with it also have accepted it. So we need to control our dopamines when it comes to the propaganda of the non-African people in order to get the black man, the black woman as a family, constructive black man, constructive black woman.
I'll start doing more dopamine symbolic imagery to use to train. Thank you, Brother Carol. Your work is priceless, as well as Melody Goddess. Thanks for your stories. They're very insightful and helpful. Thank you, family. Until next week, Black Betterment.
Big up.